Hello there. Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Knocks to Nuggets. My name is Oluwayomi Ute, and it's such a joy to come your way this very beautiful day. Wow, happy Workers' Day to every single person out there, everyone who is making a dime, no matter how small it is. I know today I'm so excited because Workers' Day brings everybody to the same place. Whether you are the CEO, whether you are the list of the workers, wherever you are today, the world is celebrating you. Thank you for all you do for humanity. Whether you know it or not, your activity is adding value to somebody. You might think you are there because you are earning a salary. Yes, you are, but without you, the circle will not be complete. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for your selflessness. Thank you for adding value to us. Together, like I always say, we win. You add value, I add value, and we form the beautiful world in which we live. And today we are continuing on having a marital bliss, but then from the beginning, courtship and dating. And I have back with me in the house today. Wow, I'm excited she's in the house. She couldn't make it last week, but today she's in. And I think God actually allowed us to have that break to have that conversation we did last week, expatiating, talking further on the things that she actually had raised when she came the first time. And so she's back again in the house. We all know her. She is a certified Simbas Save Your Marriage Before It Starts facilitator. And that's what I want to hammer on today. Save your marriage before it starts. And that is where courtship and dating comes in. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back with me on stage today, our own dear MummyMO. Hey, good to have you in the house, ma'am.
Good morning, Oluwayomi. Pleased to be here today.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for being here. But we are going to start first, before we talk about courtship and dating, we're going to be talking first about the question that came up during the session last week. So last week we had revisited the points you raised and tried to take them a bit further in developing a blissful marriage. And then somebody said this: how do you handle it when a spouse is refusing to sit and deal with issues that can ruin a happy home? So I talked about having a conversation, having like a family meeting. And she's saying, how do you handle it when your spouse is refusing to sit and deal with issues that can ruin a happy home?
That's a really, really good question. And it's a question that I get asked very frequently. So I will answer it again now. Number one, it is an assumption that the spouse is refusing to deal with it. And that's a really huge point that anybody who finds themselves in that situation must understand. One, you grew up in a different household, in a different community. You had a different life before you married this person. There is one thing happens to all of us. How we do things is largely how we saw other people do things. And sadly, many people grew up in homes or in communities where issues are not dealt with. So what I mean is, us not differing is assumed to be a sign of peace, and us having strongly different opinion is assumed to be a sign of trouble. What I usually say is that if you have yourself in the situation that this lady talked about, it is highly likely that your partner grew up in a place where people think that when you have strongly different opinions, trouble is going to break out. And so inadvertently, you are frightening your partner more, because when somebody grows up in that kind of an environment, when you now bring matter up and you say, I say we should discuss this thing, and you know it's going to create trouble, you are just creating the scenario that they are really afraid of. So continue to withdraw into themselves, and you continue to in a quote, attack them and they withdraw. So that conversation never takes place. That's why I
Wow.
said it is an assumption that the partner is refusing.
Hmm.
I would prefer for that person to think about it this way. I have not yet discovered an effective way to communicate with my partner. So when my partner
Hmm.
is refusing to talk to me, what I should be saying to myself is that, okay, this way is not working. What other ways will work? I said to people, for example, have you tried writing to the person? Yes, when you write, the person will not respond to you immediately. But when you write, one, you have an opportunity to clarify your own thoughts. Two, when the person receives it, there is no emotion, so they can read what you write and actually know what the issue is. Now, they may not come back to you and say, I have read your note, but they read it and it begins to work in their mind. So that's the first step. You can write. The second thing that you can do, perhaps, is to stand in their shoes. Many issues that we like, just like what we're talking about now, many things that we want to raise with our spouse is multifaceted. So can you look for, instead of saying, I think we ought to talk about this or something, can you just like say stuff like, it's wonderful the way the world is going now. I was reading a story today, and this is what happened when this husband and wife did not address the issue. Implications, and so on and so forth. Just introducing it in a way. And then you have to know that it's not going to be a one-time conversation. So essentially, what I'm saying is know that it is an assumption that your partner is refusing to discuss. What that thing is just showing you is that the way you want to resolve conflict is different from the way that your partner wants to resolve conflict. The last thing I'll say on that topic is this. When you are now the partner who is aware of the issues and wants to deal with it, fortunately, this person is a married person. You have to wear the hat and have the mind of someone who is potty training a child. What do I mean? If you have ever potty trained a child, there is no toddler that knows why you are potty training them. As such, they don't take your efforts seriously. If anything, they make life difficult for you. You show them how to sit on the potty, and then when poo is coming, they stand up and actually go and do that poo anywhere else but on the potty. And they can be really this thing, because then when they've done it, they look at you and they smile, and you are pretty frustrated. But have you ever seen a parent who says, if that's the way you want to go, I'm leaving you? No. The parent persists. The parent continues to think of new ways of helping the child to understand why they have to use the potty. Why does the parent do that? The parent is the one who knows and is strongly aware of the implications of a 7-year-old child who is still wearing diapers. The 3-year-old or the 2-year-old has no idea. So the parent who knows the implication is the person who perseveres, but it is for the common good of the toddler and the parent. By the time that toddler is 20, the toddler will be totally grateful to the parents that they persevered, and then they will both laugh over it. So any partner, man or woman, who finds themselves in a situation where they are having difficulty with their partner in discussing important issues, you recognize, number one, the partner probably came from a conflict averse environment where when people see conflict, they think it's trouble and they try to avoid it. And the more that you move towards that person, insisting that the matter should be discussed, the more they will withdraw from you. So you have to look for alternative ways. Just Google and say, how can I talk to my spouse if they are refusing to sit down with me? You will be amazed at the kind of ideas that you will get from there. Finally, wear the heart of a parent who is potty training a child. Whatever you want your partner to see, which they are not yet seeing, it is highly likely that it has to do with their origin, their nurture, their life experiences, and their life exposure. Sometimes they are not even aware that they have those limitations.
Hmm. Mommy Mo, that was a whole lot. Somebody wants to worsen the case. If we stay on this, we'll probably not go on dating and courtship issues. It says, I have written to my spouse on our issues, on the issues that we have, but he did not get back to me. He did not respond. He didn't address it. So what else do I do? So I have written, I have spoken, I have written, and it's still doing as if nothing happened.
All right, then. That's not a question that one can answer online. The online answer that I will give you is that you need to go talk to a wise older person. And I use that word. I know what I'm saying, wise. Somebody who looks at issues dispassionately, somebody who can critically analyze, like I just did with the question that the person asked now, or you can go see a marriage counselor. And when you go, you've got to listen to that person, not to hear what your partner will do, but to hear what you will do. One of the things I usually say to people is that remember, marriage is a 50-year journey.
Hmm.
So, what is looking very huge to you today may not be as huge as you think it is in a couple of years' time. Secondly, the eye does not see itself. When you are wanting your partner to do things or to shift or to change, there's a tendency to think that you are right and they are wrong. The thing is that what may be hindering you may well also be that your partner too is feeling exactly the same way as you are feeling about him or her on that issue. What do I mean? This is my own interpretation of conflict or difficulty. This matter is very important to both of us. I think this way, you think this way, and how we think is very far apart. And both of us feel very strongly about our position, and yet we have to move forward together. So
Hmm.
if I'm standing in my shoe and I'm seeing only my perspective, and you're standing in your shoe and you're seeing only your perspective, and both of us are not willing to be curious, and I admire her for the effort that she has already made. But I'm going to say what this is saying to you now is that you have reached the limits of what you know to do. That's why I suggest talk to a wiser older person, but choose that person carefully, or talk to a marriage counselor.
Wow, thank you so much, ma. Choose the person carefully or talk to a marriage counselor. I let me not stay on that. We can be on this for the next hour again. Ma, let's come to our main topic for today: dating and courtship. Maybe my first question will be: are they the same?
No, dating is very different from courtship. In fact, there is a fundamental error, related to how we see dating. We have we have unconsciously assumed that dating means a romantic relationship has started. Actually, Yomi, you and I can have a date.
Hmm.
A date simply means, an agreement to go out and spend some time interacting together. And so, if you are looking at the accepted interpretation of dating in our community, dating is seen as me and a man, or a man and a woman have started a relationship that is going to end up in marriage. No. And because people think that, that's the reason why when somebody toasts them and they agree and they now discover that this person is probably not a right fit for them, they begin to emotionally feel that, how will I disappoint this person? There is a book I will recommend to single people, 6 Things I Wish I Had Known Before we Got Married. It's written by Dr. Gary Chapman. In the appendix of that book, he explains what dating is. So dating is just, let's go out together, let's go see a movie together, or let's just go to the park and sit and chat and do a number of things. But it's more something that people who are friends do. However, as people begin to interact in that way, it is highly likely, because proximity brings connection, it is highly likely that you begin to do what young people call catch feelings. What catch feelings means is that chemistry is beginning to play and you are beginning to feel an attraction for somebody. What Dr. Chapman suggested is that if you are friends with somebody and immediately you begin to realize that you are feeling a romantic attraction to that person, you've got to bring the matter to the table, whether you are male or female, and say, you know what? We're friends, but I'm beginning to see that something is happening between us. Why is there a need to bring that matter to the table? Because if you are feeling something, it's very important for you to clarify whether the other person is feeling anything. So that if the other person is not feeling anything, that your friendship has to pause, because it is the proximity that is creating the attraction. Now, if you are attracted and this person is absolutely certain that they want to remain only friends, it means you people cannot continue to date. You've got to give one another space. Now, even if two of you now decide that, if you say that and you find out that the other person too is beginning to feel some chemistry towards you, then both of you can agree to begin what we call committed dating. Committed dating means exclusive dating. Committed dating means that once I start say, okay, I like you, you like me, let us have committed dating, I cannot now continue to go on dates with other people and say they're just my friends, because I'm onto something here. I'm taking myself out of the market and I'm beginning to do. And as I said, why I like what he wrote in that appendix also is that he gave a lot of guidance on what should happen immediately you people start the committed dating. Because committed dating does not mean that you are a fit for one another. Committed dating just says, let us begin to find out whether we are a fit for one another. And so you begin to talk about all of the issues that you're supposed to talk about, and immediately you begin to see that things are not in alignment. Then you end the relationship. Because people don't understand this process, somebody comes to, in fact, I say one of the biggest risks that people take in this world, especially men, is to go speak to a woman and the very first time you are speaking to her, you say, I want you to be my wife. When you do such a thing, I know that especially in religious circles, we like to do that, but it's a huge risk because you are making a decision. It doesn't mean you are promiscuous if you date. It is the way we think of it. If you're going to spend 50 to 60 years with somebody, I beg you, you'd better be choosing somebody who you know a little bit about. How you can choose in the dark. And I want to say where that choosing in the dark came from. In the past, I said it when I was here last, that we grew up, we chose partners from communities that we have lived in and we know and we share values and everything. So you already know a lot. In today's world, even if you are marrying somebody from your village, you are marrying a stranger. So Dr. Chapman in that book gave guidelines, talk about money, talk about your family of origin, talk about things, talk about your values. And as you grow in that conversation, when you begin to see alignment, you can then go on and say, all right, so we've seen that we're fitting one another. We want to marry. Then you will begin courtship. Wow. Courtship is what happens between two people who have already decided to get married. And hopefully they arrived at that decision consciously, intentionally, and knowing. And if you have to part ways at that point, so a good illustration of reasons why people may have to part ways after committed dating is, what if, when you start having all of these conversations, you find out that you are a sickler and the other person is a sickler? It is responsible to break that relationship, because if you don't break it, I know people say faith, and I truly respect anybody who chooses to do that. But I always say to people, if you go to the Bible and you look at the people who trusted God, trusting God didn't remove difficulties from them. What trusting God did for them is that it enabled them to continue to stand even in the face of trouble and suffering. So if an AS person decides to marry an AS person or an SS person, and they already know that they may not have money to do all of those medical things that people do to select, and they end up with sick children who are sicklers, it is something they could have foreseen. So that's one situation. Another situation which generally comes to me very much is that, if your family of origin does not want you to marry a certain type of person, we usually look at families who do that and demonize them. How can they say so? Why will they say the person should not marry? I used to think so before too, but I don't think so anymore. Why? It is because your history has a lot to do. And many of the people who start dating people from other tribes, or people who are older than them, or people who are younger than them, or people who are from different religions, never really sit down to truly appreciate the long-term implications of what they are choosing to do. They just think, oh, we love one another. And then when they get married, they start saying, I even say, if you look at the culture of the family of origin of the person that you are thinking of marrying, and you feel, I cannot be comfortable with the way these people relate with one another, that's a strong enough reason to stop at the committed dating stage. Because remember, marriage is something you're going to do for 50 years or more if God gives you life. Your partner didn't drop from heaven. They came through a family. They came through a tribe. They came through a religion. So they have all of these things in their lives. And you just have to open your eyes and see it. Love is not the physical feeling. Love is not the interaction. So we're currently getting ready for my son to get married. And yesterday I sat with the mother of the girl he's going to marry, and we learned a lot more about one another. And we're going back to our children now to say, this thing that you people want to do is fantastic, but are you both aware of this? It is going to be in your life. So may I also say to parents, that just like I said earlier, of people saying, my spouse is not willing to walk through with me. Parents also really need to just step back from the place where they usually say, it's over my dead body that you will marry this kind of a person. Because when you say that, it doesn't help the young person to understand. Or when you say, this is what your partner must do, it doesn't help. We truly need to begin to think about these issues in a deeper way, creating better understanding of all of the things that we want to talk about. So dating is just, me interacting. So take a typical church setting, for example. It's okay for the people in the youth to go to picnic together, to go to see a movie together. They're just getting to know one another. And it is from that place, the proximity will be getting them to begin to feel attraction to one another. When they feel attraction to one another, they've got to make a conscious decision, if the feeling is mutual, to start what we call committed dating. And that committed dating, the purpose of it is to begin to explore one another and to realize, should we even be going on? And when they make the decision that, yes, we see enough about one another to be going on, then they begin courtship.
Wow. Courtship and dating are so different. I'm sure somebody is taking notes like I'm taking notes there. Thank you so much, Ma. You touched on something and I want to come back to it. Is there a reasonable age gap?
I would say that's not the appropriate question. because a reasonable age gap means so very many things. And anybody who attempts to give an answer to that is creating a hurdle for the young people. The thing is this, I think young people need to educate themselves, you know. Question number one that they need to think about deeply is, how does my community see marriage? Why is my community concerned that a woman should be younger than a man? Why is my community concerned that, you know, a man should be old? You know, explore all of those things. Why do I say so? So in my own home, for example, now, when I got to my mom and I told her I wanted to marry someone, and she asked me, in the course of the conversation, she found out that he was 12 years older than me. The first question she asked me was, has he been married before? Because from that tribe, they usually marry early. And right there and then, I went back to my husband now, who was my boyfriend then, and I said, when I told my mom about you, this is what she said. You know, if we had looked at it as that, how can she be saying such a thing, you know, and everything. So I said, this is what she said, and this is why she said so. It's really important for you to tell me how things are now. And he said no, that he'd not been married, that he actually had seen someone he wanted to marry when he was abroad, but that he didn't want to marry an expatriate and bring them back to Nigeria. I believed him. There are many people who are listening to us now who will say, what if he was deceiving you? That's possible. But that's why I say you've got to develop your capacity. Thankfully, in today's world, it's even easier to find out information about people. Now, when a young woman is talking to me and they say, I want to find out something about somebody, you know what I did? I just ask, are they online? They say yes. I go online. I Google their name. I try to find out information from them. So essentially, I'm saying that you can say somebody will deceive you, but you should even ask. So when my mom said that, you know, when I asked, and then I began to look at my husband, of course, and also look at other things about him to find out, was he telling me the truth? It took me to see his parents, we did, but I did not have any qualms about marrying somebody who was 12 years older than me. Neither did my parents have problems. Did we have relatives who think that it was an issue? Yes, but because my family knew, in my family, what my parents used to say is, look at the character of the person before you look at anything after him. And so since his character was okay, my parents were okay, I was okay. Another family can be in that situation and think differently. I think that parents and young people who are of marriageable age, they avoid talking about marriage chiefly because the children feel that the parents are putting pressure on them, and rightly so, because many of us put pressure on them. When are you going to marry and all of these kind of things? The parents also have concern. It is valid for a parent to want to be a grandparent. It is just a human thing. But we all need to step back from that emotional state and begin to have conversations. Why? So that young people can ask their parents, okay, even though I'm not dating anybody yet, if somebody is older, how will you people see it? If somebody is younger, how will you people see it? If somebody is from another tribe, and when they start saying over my dead body, then you say, okay, why over your dead body? Why? Because you are trying to understand. Somebody was speaking to me recently, and they've been dating somebody for 5 years. The guy is a Muslim. He's the only son of his mother. And when the lady came to me, she said, my partner and I, we love one another, but his mother hates me. And that's the only problem we have. You know, and then as I probed further, I said, well, if you are not ready to be a Muslim, when a Muslim came and toasted you, why did you agree when he too is not ready to become a Christian? Because for me, love should not come in at that stage. the religion you have is going to determine how you bring up your children, is going to determine how you spend money, is going to determine how you do your work, and everything. So it's not it says that I can go to whichever church I like. No. You can go to your church, but you as a family, we still have to determine which religious beliefs will define what you do in your marriage. And so if that thing is so important to both of you, so I said to her, I said, well, am I sure your mother-in-law hates, or your this man's mother hates you? I don't think so. I think what she just is putting her foot down about is that she knows the implications of the decision that you people want to take, which both of you are not paying attention to. And she's pulling the ears of her son, because she came to me then because the guy was now wanting to end the marriage. End the relationship. And I said, if you people had demonstrated maturity and addressed this issue at the time that you started exploring whether you are a right fit for one another, you would have walked away. And see, so maybe the 4 years that you have used to do this relationship now, the people who are good fit for you have already passed you by when you were staying in a relationship that you should have walked out of.
So true. MummyMO, let me hold you there for a minute. Just stay tuned. I just want to put in this break. I normally don't do breaks. I want to just put in this 1 second break. And we're going to just stay right where you are. Wow, I needed that. Welcome back. I just had to have that in. Thank you so much, MummyMO. I just thank you so much, because answering them this down to earth and real goes a long way to help us in having a better view, particularly at this critical stage of decision making. But still on age, I'm still asking, is there, why is it, maybe I should turn it, why is it that we expect the man to be older? It's like the acceptable thing. Why?
Okay. The reason we accept it is because in our culture, leadership, authority, we're nurtured to believe that there is a role a man plays. Watching Korean drama has loosened many things for me, because watching Korean drama and seeing that the attachment we have to the man being older, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. The attachment to the man being older is not in that culture. And I was like, I would see there are a lot of things about them. I would see, the woman would approach the man. And I'll be thinking, how can a man approach a man? When they want to get married, they're thinking, what will be the benefits to my family if I marry you? I'll be thinking, how can they be basing marriage on benefits, and things like that. So essentially, that the man should be older is a cultural construct. There is nothing that says it will be better or it will be worse. Some people believe that women mature earlier than men. Well, that is so, but we have also seen young men who were really very mature. The couple that I have had the most success with about marriage, the young man was 25 and his wife was 24. But even at that stage, they were so mature, it was obvious that they had been nurtured to be responsible, accountable people. So that's the reason why I said, if I give an answer now, it would not be appropriate, because everybody needs to explore their own locality, their own community. Why do people hold this kind of beliefs? What exactly are they looking for? So one of the things that my husband and I had to address is, when you marry a man who is 12 years older than you, his friends are going to probably be 12 years older than you as well. Now, if you're in a culture where older people feel that younger people should treat them respect, it means they will have expectations of me. I can be playing with my husband because he's my husband, but there are things I can't do with his friends because there are people who are much older than me. Now, we also had to think about it. My friends are necessarily my age. So if my husband is doing older man, why are your friends treating me with disrespect? What I used to say to him is that, are you not the person who saw young woman and went and married her? So these are so we had to look at those dynamics, so there's so very many things. And you can't prevent the people around you from believing what they believe. So for example, if a young man decides to marry a woman who is 5 years older than him, he and his wife can be comfortable with it, but his aunties may feel that she's disrespecting him, and that will create trouble. Do they have the skills to manage those relationships? For me, that's why I said asking that question is inappropriate, because at the end of the day, there are people who feel if you marry somebody who is your age, if the man is younger than you, if the man is just a few months older than you, any small thing that you say is because I'm your age, that's why you're not respecting me. All that is showing is where the person is coming from. And that's the reason why you should know where you are coming from, and you should know where the other person is coming from. And if these things are so important to you, then those are the things that will show you that perhaps this, people may say, is it because of such a trivial thing that you will now separate from somebody? That's actually the question. Is it trivial? If it is trivial, why are you people quarreling about it every day?
So true.
The religion doesn't matter. Yes, every Sunday when you want to go to church, there is Christ. That shows you that it matters. The tribe doesn't matter. Yet when they say you should start doing things according to the tribe you married into, you say they want to oppress you. Didn't they see that you are from another tribe when they married you? Didn't you know that you are married into a tribe that is different from your own? Why didn't you explore the culture of the family that you are marrying into? Why didn't you explore your own culture and know what you are bringing? Because these are the things at the end of the day. When we say people should do professional premarital counseling in today's world, those are actually the things that the counselor gets you to do. The very first exercise that people do when they come to premarital counseling with you is define marriage. How do you define marriage? How does your family of origin define marriage? How does your community define marriage? And what we're trying to do there is, you both want to get married. Do you even have a common understanding of marriage? Because if you are marrying and you don't have a common understanding of marriage, your expectations will be different. And so I encourage singles, once you did, in fact, we finished our Get Yourself Ready for Marriage 12-week group coaching program. We did a graduation on Saturday. And one of the things that gladdened my heart is that the single people who took that program kept saying, I now know, what I want. And one person in particular shared and said, after, a previous participant who was there, said, after I finished the program, it was as if ladies started seeing me, and they were just looking at me, and everything. But that this time, as a lady was showing interest in me, I could look at her and say, oh no, there's no need to start a relationship with this person. Not because he looked at them and put them off, but because in his interaction with them, in the conversations they were having, he was already seeing that they didn't have the same values. He was already seeing that their understanding of life is not the same. And so there was no need to even begin to date this person. And that's more the preparation. Most people are thinking, so, how do I deal with the person? How do we make sure that marriage works? No, you first need to understand, where am I coming from? What is important to me? What do I want? And not in making a list, but truly understanding what has made you to be who you are. Are you self-aware? Do you know why you do the things you are doing? Once you begin to build your capacity to do that, when you meet other people, when somebody says something, you are very quickly able to understand why they're doing so. And so even before you choose, you are already pre-qualifying people. And by the time you choose, because you know what courtship and dating is about, you're not going to feel embarrassed about asking questions. You're not going to feel embarrassed. You're not going to think this person is too forward, especially for the women. There is no law that says that it is only, when people say, can a woman ask a man to marry? For me, that's the wrong question. What the woman needs to be able to do is to be able to ask questions. I think you are a fantastic young man. So what exactly do you do? That's a valid question for you to ask. It's 50 years of your life. So it's good for you to observe and say, I see that you talk to that person, in this way. Why did you talk to them in that way? You are trying to find out about this person, and you can do this even before a relationship starts. So to answer your question, what's a reasonable age gap? In our culture as is, a man would probably be older than a woman. And so if a young person approaches you, and usually the way it happens is that the person approaches you, you like them and everything, and then maybe 6 months down the line, you now discover they are younger. What does that say to you? It means that since you already know that there is a probability that a young person can approach you, immediately somebody says, hello, how are you, and everything. You say, oh, so when's your birthday? Or you ask them, oh, so when did you graduate? Things like that. Or which school did you go to? Oh, so what year were you in it? All of those things are parameters by which you can determine somebody's age. And if you see that the person is younger than you, and you know that I don't want somebody who is younger than me, then you already have your answer. You don't need to go on with that person. The thing is that people think that this thing is such a hard thing that they're not even being creative in their thinking and finding out information and educating themselves.
Wow. You've touched on it a bit, but I think I want to draw you out a little more on it. How do you know the right fit to marry? Because particularly for the Christians, where we think that, or not just Christians alone, people of faith generally, once we have the same faith and we align, then we can marry. So I can marry any Christian. It's because I'm a Christian. And then we attend the same church. So what am I? All of this story, MummyMO, we are born again, If any man be in Christ, is a new creature. So he's new, I'm new. So we can marry. How true is
I keep reminding us, part of what is crippling us, and I like these conversations that we are having because this is what will help people to know. If you and somebody were born in the same village, and I'm using that village figuratively, by the time you are an adult, you have known a lot about them. And so when you then pick a partner from that, people will just be saying, Shebi, in the old times, people just used to choose somebody and they will marry. No, people did not just use to choose somebody. They had a lot of background information about the person that they were choosing. In today's world, if you are of the same faith, that is just showing you that you have, you have a common ground. However, let me share my own personal experience again. I was a Christian. My husband was a Christian. Both of us were born into Christian homes. I was a Baptist. There is a way Baptist people practice their Christianity. My husband was an Anglican. There is a way Anglican people practice their Christianity. Seeing that I had never lived with an Anglican, I foolishly assumed that all of go to church in the morning, go to Sunday school, come back in the evening, Baptist training union, everything, prayer meeting, go to visit people after church service. I thought that every Christian lived that way. So you are a Christian, I'm a Christian, praise the Lord, we moved on. When we got married, I want to practice Christianity this way. You want to practice Christianity this way. Of course, we were having all kinds of conversation. This is how Christianity will affect how I spend money. This is how Christianity will affect how you spend money. We were having all kinds of things. In fact, let me share a story that I had once. So a young lady who I was mentoring had come to me and said, MummyMO, is the man not supposed to be a spiritual leader? I say, when people ask me such questions, I answer cautiously because there probably are many other things that they have not yet told you. So I said, well, yes, is anything the matter? She said her husband said that he will not be doing a morning devotion with her again. Okay. So do you know why he said that? She said she doesn't know. I said, all right, I will talk with him. When I met the young man, I said, hello, how are you? How are you and your wife? He said, okay. And how is morning devotion going? He said, well, fine. So I said, so your wife says you people are not doing morning devotion together again. He said, yes. I said, why is that? He said, man, every time we are doing morning devotion, she will be bringing up everything that has happened and be wanting us to resolve it. We have to go to work. How can we wake up in the morning and now be saying, yesterday when you did this and so on and so forth? I said, so what happened? So he said that, that he has tried to say, but that since she insists that that's what he has told her, that let's her be having devotion herself and let him be having devotion. I went back to the young lady and I said, well, during devotion, this is what you do and everything. She said, yes, that man. I know the scripture that says that if you have anything against your brother and you want to pray, before you pray, put your offering down and go and resolve it. Apparently, in her own family of origin, during morning devotion, in order to go to prayer with a clear mind, everybody talks about what was on their mind. Now, how is Mr. supposed to know this? Did he grow up in their home? He didn't, but this was creating a rift between them. So I then said to her, I said, what you want is not good, but you and your husband, did you people discuss how you will be doing devotion? I said, it seems to me that what you are coming with from your home is one thing. What is coming in from his home is one thing. What do you as Mr. and Mrs. now want to do? Because I then said to her, I said, is the point he is making not valid? If both of you have to do devotion and get ready and be at work at 8 o'clock, if you start devotion at 6:30 and you now start ironing matter and you don't finish, what will happen to your work? And I encourage them to go back. But that's just an illustration. In the Simbis assessment, when people do it, it's very interesting. You'll find somebody says, I feel closer to God by singing hymns and dancing. And then their partner says, I feel closer to God by studying theological concepts. Of course, when those people start to live together, even though both of them are Christians, they will have trouble. The theological concepts will say, you are not serious with Bible study. The singing person will say, you take things too seriously. So there is more to us. Our faith defines us, but we're still human beings who are practicing that faith. And I've just said that. I've not talked of family of origin issues. I've not talked of life experience issues, and so on and so forth. I've not talked of depth of spirituality, maturity, and so on and so forth. So when people just say, this person is a Christian, or this person is going to the same congregation as me, we always still say to them, pause. All of those conversations still need to be had. And finally, let me address the question of people saying, it is the will of God for me. God has shown me that this is the person you will marry. I have no problem with that. However, God showing you that this person is your partner does not mean that you will not do the work of getting to know one another. Because
Yes.
God showing you that this person is your his will, all he's saying to you is that when difficult times come, that knowledge will enable you to remain standing. But what many of us use it is as a talisman. God has shown me this is his will. Therefore, if I choose this person, we will not have any trouble. And when
Mm.
trouble begins to come, only one man in the Bible was told by God to marry somebody, and he was told to marry a prostitute. Did we see Hosea complaining that the burden was too much? No. Why? God, the same God who told him to marry that prostitute, gave him the grace to live with a prostitute. She
Mm.
continued being a prostitute. He lived with her with that grace.
Mm.
So
Mm.
anybody who is saying that God revealed to me that you are the person I'm to marry, please know that what you are saying is that whatever I see in this marriage, God will give me the grace. And so when you begin to see issues, you will do like Hosea did. It is God you will go back to. You will now not be shouting, she's this. Because if you start shouting, he's this, she's this, what you are telling us is that you didn't really hear God. You just use
Mm.
God's name to label something that you wanted to choose.
Mm. Hmm. You just used God's name to label something you wanted to do. I remember when before we got married, we were married at a time and a season, or we got engaged at the time and a season when the fad was God said. So the guy meets the girl and is like, after all the greetings, like the Lord said. And I used to tell my friends that any man that will come and tell me the Lord said, I would not. And I was like, why? So because God is not forcing me on you. If you want, it's because that God said, not that you love what you're saying, you like this girl, you want to be with this girl, because God said. I said, just carry your two legs and disappear. I am not a bird. I was so serious. They were like, but how you know it's so spiritual? I said, this spirituality. Oh. This thing is flesh and blood. If he doesn't like what he is saying, but that the Lord said, you should tell God that me, I said no. And they would all laugh. But today, I'm so happy that when my husband came, he didn't come with God said. He came real. Many times we have used this God said to cover up things to make it sound so spiritual. Meanwhile, we are just empty.
And I
Mommy
don't
Mo,
and I don't say, I believe God can say, because Derek Prince, he
yes.
wrote about how he met his second wife. His second wife had been married and had had trouble in the marriage and broke up. And he had a relationship with some friends that they had said whenever they want to decide, when they've prayed, if all of them don't agree, they would not do. When God spoke to him that he should marry that his wife, he told his friends, and they all prayed, and I think a number of them didn't believe that he should marry somebody who had been married before. Because of that, he walked away from the woman. But because it was God himself that wanted them to marry, after a couple of years, those men who had said, we are believers, we think that when people marry, it should be the same person. If she has married before, there's a possibility that God will still bring them together again. Even after that man had already gone and married and you had moved on, they came back from their own individual prayers, not Derek Prince pressuring them, that in their time of prayer, separately, the Lord said to them that he was the one who wanted Derek Prince to marry that lady. And they went on and married. And that woman played a great role in his life and his ministry. What am I saying? God actually speaks to people. The only thing is that let us be, the fact that God spoke to you does not mean that practical things will not work out. Be careful that you are using God said you are the one as a talisman. That's what I'm warning people against.
Absolutely. The fact that God said does not say you will not take responsibility. You know, mommy, my issue was when you said God said, I said, I don't want to marry you, but because God has spoken, I don't have a choice. I know you must have a choice. First and foremost, yes, you have prayed, you have heard God, but tell me you love what you see. Tell me you like me for who I am. Tell me you appreciate me for me, not because God said. If not that God said, I would not have married you. I know we spiritualize so much and then we run into troubles at the end of the day. MummyMO, if we want to continue this topic of relationship, courtship, marriage, dating, we will not end it. Somebody said MummyMO must come back. We will do part 4, part 5, part 6. Talking about these issues. But one thing I want to leave with us, MummyMO, and I want to ask you that question. If I want to belong to the Right Fit Academy, if I want to know more about it, how do I go about it?
Okay, then, if you're on Facebook, just search for the Right Fit Marriage Academy. We have a page, we have a group. Join the group because that is where many of the conversations go on. If you're on Instagram, follow at the Right Fit Marriage, at the Right Fit Marriage. But I usually encourage people to join the Facebook group because a lot of conversations, even if you just join, just scrolling through, you will meet many other conversations that we have had, and everything. But if you are single, or you are currently dating, please permit me, Oluwayomi, to make this advertisement.
Please go
Sign
ahead.
up for our 12-week Get Yourself Ready for Marriage program. It's 30,000 naira only. One of the things that you will get there is we do an assessment for you of yourself, and you will get 1 hour with a counselor to walk you through it. That alone is more than 30,000 naira, which you pay for the
Very true.
entire 12 weeks. What we have done is that we have spoken to our colleagues in the marriage space and said, let us not allow these calamities to continue going on. Donate your time, donate your energy and everything. So for those 12 weeks, we take you through a process. I tell people that even though we give you resources, we don't chase you. We give you the resources. You are the one who is going to read it because it's your life. You are the one who is going to do the assignment because it's your life. We teach you how to educate yourself about marriage so that you become somebody who can confidently choose the person you want because you have an understanding of who you are. You have an understanding of the kind of person that will fit you, and you have an understanding of what marriage really is. So if you'd like to know more about that, you can send me a DM. But if you go to my personal page on Facebook, there is a pinned post that is talking about this Get Yourself Ready for Marriage. We just concluded one on Saturday. The next one is going to start on May 29. Thank you, Oluwayomi, for letting me do that.
Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you so much. Boluwatiwi is on this call. Can you please put up a text, a chat, giving us this link so I can highlight it? I've seen you, Boluwatiwi. Can you help us? Just put up all of this as a link so that we can highlight it. It's important people get ready to marry. We don't want broken marriages anymore. We can stop it with the right information. Thank you so much, Mommy Mo. We truly will come back. Honestly, we will.
Anytime, anytime.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing all these nuggets. Thank you for being vulnerable to even tell us from your own personal life stories and bring us to that place where we appreciate all the some, maybe a little bit of the things that we need to know about marriage. Thank you so much, my regards to Chairman, and wishing you all the very best.
Thank you.
Maybe before you go, man, your last words. Your
Okay.
last words.
Marriage is not a trap. Many
Hmm.
young people are afraid of marriage. The reason a rat gets into a trap is not because looking for food is a bad thing. Looking for food is a natural thing for a rat. When the rat does not pay attention to the things he needs to pay attention to, that's when it will perceive the odor of food. And because it is focusing only on the odor of the food, it will not see the trap and it will fall into it. It will get the food, or it will get into a trap. People get into trouble in marriage because they want marriage, but they are not focusing on all of the things that they need to be looking at. So don't be afraid of marriage, even if you are already in it. Don't be afraid of marriage. Whatever you are experiencing now may just be a consequence of the fact that you didn't do all of this work. Thankfully, even if you are already married, you can still do this work. So marriage is not anything that you should be afraid of. Marriage is not a trap.
Marriage is not a trap. Thank you so much, Ma. Really good having you. We spoke for 1 hour. Wow. And we could have gone on. Thank you so much for your time. I do appreciate. Enjoy the rest of the day, of the
Thank
week.
you.
Have a wonderful holiday. Happy Workers' Day once again. Wow, could we go on and on and on with MummyMO? Absolutely. So much to choose, so much to talk about. I want to appreciate everybody who is on this call. I truly appreciate and celebrate you. Next week, we are going to start off talking about parenting, understanding the various stages the child goes through and how to deal with them at those various stages. Even if your child are already grown, grandchildren are on their way, and you have several other children around you. So you need to understand this. Times are changing, things are changing, and let's come up to have that conversation about the changing faces of childhood. So until I come your way next week, Monday, another edition of Knocks to Nuggets, please don't forget it. If you can think it, you can be it, and you can have it. And as always, together we win. God bless you. See you again next week. Bye for now.